we see our main character, Well, use his magic to flatten an entire stretch of land in an instant. With the terrain leveled, everyone can immediately begin turning it into farmland. Well's magic is incredibly useful. His men can hardly believe that a count's magic is being used for something as practical as development. The work, however, leaves Well exhausted, and he plans to head home right away. Unfortunately, his assistant reminds him that there is still another area that needs attention. Still, Well doesn't really have the right to complain. When he gets home, he is welcomed by 4 beautiful women. The women quickly notice that Well looks worn out. He explains that his assistant worked him to the bone again today. They laugh and comment that his relationship with his assistant seems completely backwards, almost like the assistant is the boss, or worse, like Well is the servant. Well admits that, at heart, he's still a white-collar office worker. Of course, the women don't understand what that means, so he simply says he's going to change clothes. As he does, he thinks to himself that it isn't so easy to change who you are, even if it has been 10 years since he worked as an office employee. That thought triggers a flashback. Well is returning home late from work, completely exhausted, but he forces himself to stay awake because he still has to make dinner. He prepares a late-night 1 soup, 3 dishes meal, miso fried pork ribs. Just as he finally sits down to eat, he falls asleep at the table. When he wakes up, he's still looking at a table and food, but it isn't pork ribs. He doesn't recognize the room at all. The people around him are dressed strangely, and it looks like a wedding. Is he overseas? Stranger still, his body is much smaller. He's a child. He hears a man say that now that he has finally seen his successor married, he can retire without worry. Well, can only think that this is an unusually vivid dream. Surely it's time to wake up and get back to his pork ribs. He closes his eyes again, but his father won't let him sleep. He comes over and tells Well that he needs to greet the guests. The man pulls Well in front of a crowd and introduces him as his youngest son. Well is completely baffled. Is this really happening? His father tells him to introduce himself, but Well has no idea what this child's name even is. How is he supposed to do that? Thankfully, his older brother steps in. He greets everyone and thanks them for traveling so far to attend their eldest brother's wedding. He says that he and his younger brother, Wendelin, are deeply grateful. Hearing the name, the bride asks if she may call Wendelin Well. Well quickly agrees. Later, his brother talks with him privately and asks if his mind went blank when he was surrounded by so many adults. Well finally asks what exactly is going on. His brother laughs and says it's a lot to process for a 5-year-old. Today is their brother's wedding. Their father had struggled to find him a suitable partner, so he must be relieved that a noble's daughter has married into the family. That makes Well ask whether they are nobles too. His brother says he understands the doubt, but yes, they are genuine nobility. Well is still confused, but at least he can understand the language, and if their family can afford such a lavish ceremony, they must be fairly high-ranking. As the 3rd son, he figures he won't have to worry about starving. Noble food really is delicious. Unfortunately, the very next day proves him wrong. Breakfast is nothing but dry bread and soup that's barely more than water. When Well asks for more, his father tells him there isn't any. Completely confused, Well seeks out the brother who has been explaining things to him and asks how they could afford such a grand wedding if they're eating like this. His brother explains that they couldn't afford to look cheap in front of guests, even though the family is poor. It was essentially a display of noble pride. The wedding food was a special occasion. From today onward, it's back to brown bread and thin soup. Well can't believe it. Even if they're poor, they're still nobles, and he's the 3rd son. Surely that counts for something. But then more brothers start appearing, one after another. That's when it hits him. They aren't just poor nobles. He's the 8th son. Sometime later, Well begins learning about this world through books. He discovers that he lives in the Kingdom of Helmet. The capital has a population of 1 million, the largest in the kingdom. To the south lies the biggest commercial city in the region, home to 200,000 people. Go even farther south, cross a massive mountain range, and you reach the remote backcountry where he now lives, population 800. He is the 8th son of a poor, noble family living in the middle of nowhere. His life is completely screwed. Not long after, Well sees his older brothers preparing to leave the estate. Worried, he asks where they're going. They explain that they agreed to leave once their eldest brother got married. Well can stay because he's still a child, but they have already reached adulthood. Well protests, saying they could inherit land if they stayed. His brothers tell him that poor nobles like them can't afford to divide their territory. Everything will go to the eldest brother. As for the rest of them, they are giving up their inheritance rights in exchange for a financial settlement and leaving home. From that moment on, they will no longer be nobles. Well asks how they are supposed to live like that. They explain that the 2nd brother married into a branch family as insurance, in case something happens to the eldest. The rest will have to make their own way in the capital. They can learn to read and write, take exams to become soldiers or low-level officials, or try their luck as adventurers. In the end, it all depends on their skills. They warn Well that if he keeps goofing off, he will regret it later. Those words hit him hard. He rushes to the house library, only to find books full of poetry. Frustrated, he wonders if there aren't any useful books at all. By chance, he comes across a magical aptitude crystal ball instruction manual and starts reading it. The crystal ball, it says, can measure a person's aptitude for magic. Well can hardly believe magic even exists, but he keeps reading. Everyone possesses mana, yet only one person in several thousand has enough of it to cast spells. Such individuals are extremely rare. Well scoffs, saying he can already see the punchline. You can't use magic. The manual continues, explaining that magical aptitude isn't hereditary. Everyone has an equal chance of being born with the talent to become a great magician. The only way to know is to test oneself. Again, Well doubts it. Who would believe something like that? The manual concludes by stating that those with magical talent can shine in many fields. Still unconvinced, Well decides it is worth a try. It is not like he actually believes this nonsense. When he uses the crystal ball, it shines brilliantly. According to the manual, if the ball glows like a rainbow, the user has a high aptitude for magic and should begin studying with specialized guides. Since that is exactly what happened, Well realizes he needs a magic guidebook. He searches every book in the house, but there isn't a single book on magic. When he asks his father if there are any others, his father says there aren't. He can't read anyway. Instead, his father sends Well to the forest to gather firewood. While there, Well desperately tries to activate magic on his own, but quickly realizes he has no idea how to do it. Just then, a man approaches him. The man says he sensed Well earlier when he used the crystal ball. He claims he has finally found someone on the same wavelength as himself. Naturally, Well panics at the sight of this strange man, but the man apologizes for startling him and tells him not to be afraid. He introduces himself as a magician. At that moment, a giant boar spots them and charges. The man tells Well to picture his own wind magic. First, he must acknowledge the mana within him. Then, he must make it circulate through his body. Somehow, Well succeeds in casting a spell. The man congratulates him on using his first magic, then finishes off the boar with a far stronger version of the same spell. He explains that he is a former court magician named Alfred. Well is told to rest easy. One day, he will become a magician far greater than Alfred. After introducing himself, Alfred sits at a small table he has prepared, offering tea to Well. The atmosphere is calm as Alfred makes a life-changing proposal. He tells the young boy that he wants to pass his magic knowledge on to him. Well is completely shocked by the offer and wonders why a powerful magician would want to teach him, especially since he has no money to pay for lessons. Alfred reassures him that he does not want any gold. He simply wants a disciple to carry on his legacy. Overjoyed, Well begs Alfred to be his master and promises to do whatever it takes to learn. However, Alfred adds a serious condition to their agreement. He warns Well that he must keep their training a total secret from his family. He explains that if people discover Well has magical talent, it could spark a dangerous fight over who will become the next lord of the land. Although Well is only the 8th son and finds the idea of being a lord strange, Alfred insists that a magician has enough influence to change the line of succession instantly. To stay safe, Well agrees that no one can find out about his new powers. The training begins high in the mountains the very next day. Alfred starts with a technique called capacity matching. He explains that this method allows a student to align their mana capacity with someone who possesses more power. As they hold hands, Alfred instructs Well to visualize mana circulating through both of them in a continuous loop. Well focuses deeply on the sensation of the energy moving through his small body. As the circuit forms, Alfred is stunned by what he feels. He notes that a person's maximum mana capacity is usually decided at the moment they are born and never grows. However, Well does not just match Alfred's massive capacity, he actually surpasses it. Even more impressive is the fact that they haven't even reached the limit of what Well can hold. While Well is busy in the mountains, his family remains oblivious at their mansion. His father and his older brother, Kurt, notice that the family crystal ball has been moved from its usual spot. They immediately assume Well was the one touching it. They mock the boy, laughing at the idea that he was hoping to find some magical talent within himself. Kurt sneers, suggesting that Well probably realized how mediocre he is and spent his time crying in frustration. Back at the training site, Well successfully masters an advanced fireball spell. Alfred is highly impressed, noting that it usually takes a long time to learn such difficult magic, yet Well has done it in just a few days. Well humbly gives all the credit to his master, saying he would still be struggling with the basics if he were trying to learn on his own. To help Well avoid suspicion at home, Alfred hands him a basket filled with fresh mountain vegetables. This way, Well can tell his family he was out foraging for food instead of practicing magic. That evening, the family enjoys a rich soup made from the ingredients Well brought home. His mother is very happy and praises Well for having a natural talent for finding food. However, his father is not so easily convinced. He points out that those specific vegetables only grow on the other side of a river that has no bridge. He questions how a 5-year-old could have possibly crossed such a barrier. He even asks if Well used magic to fly across. While the women in the family laugh at the absurdity of the idea, Kurt stays quiet, looking at his younger brother with a suspicious expression. The training continues with Alfred teaching Well how to use tracking magic, which is a complex form of wind magic. He tells Well to sense the tiny vibrations in the air to locate living things. Well concentrates and quickly finds a bird, striking it down with precision. While they cook and eat the bird, Well shares some wasabi he found in the forest. As they enjoy their meal, Alfred gives Well a stern warning about the enchanted forest. He describes it as a place filled with savage monsters that normal humans cannot hope to defeat. He explains that many people enter these forests hoping to find rare herbs and get rich, but they almost never return alive. As they talk, Well admits that he feels like Kurt has been watching him closely. Alfred suspects that Kurt is afraid of losing his rights as the heir to the lordship. Well confesses that he doesn't really care about becoming a lord because it seems like a lot of trouble and he doesn't want to fight with his brother. Alfred listens and suggests that Well should consider becoming an adventurer instead. He tells the boy that he used to be an adventurer himself and believes Well has the perfect personality to enjoy traveling and seeing the wide world. During this moment, a dark, shadowy energy begins to leak from Alfred's arm. He quickly hides it from Well, whispering to himself that he needs just a little more time. That night, Well tells his father about his plan to become an adventurer and attend the Adventurers Academy when he turns 12. His father listens but points out a major obstacle. The family is poor, and they do not have enough money to pay for the tuition or the move across the mountains. The next day, Alfred shows Well a map and explains that there is a way to earn the money himself. He points out the trade city of Breisberg, where even children can join merchant guilds to sell the things they gather. He tells Well that he will need to master flight magic to travel such a long distance. To demonstrate, Alfred grabs Well and flies high into the sky at incredible speed. From the clouds, he shows Well the vastness of the world that is waiting for him. However, things take a dark turn when the black energy begins to cover Alfred's entire body during the night. The next morning, Alfred abruptly tells Well that their training will end the following day. Well is confused and worried because he hasn't fully mastered flight magic yet. He feels that 2 weeks is not nearly enough time to learn everything, but Alfred speaks with a firm, commanding voice that leaves no room for argument. Well is forced to accept that his time with his master is coming to an end. During dinner at the mansion, Well's father mentions that a monster called a Whispering Dead has been spotted in the woods. He explains that these are undead creatures that still have their human minds and can talk, but they are essentially walking corpses whose skin is pale and cold. He warns that after a few years, they eventually lose their sanity and turn into mindless zombies. Terrified for his master, Well flies out into the night to find Alfred and warn him about the monster. When Well finds him, he begs Alfred to come back to the mansion where it is safe. Alfred sadly reveals the truth. He is the Whispering Dead the villagers are talking about. He explains that 5 years ago, he was part of an army that went into the enchanted forest to find a cure for a sick nobleman. They were overwhelmed by monsters, and Alfred died after using up all his mana to protect the troops. His deep regret and his wish to pass on his magic allowed him to remain in the world as an undead. He confesses that he lied to Well because he was afraid the boy would run away if he knew the truth. Alfred tells Well that he is reaching his limit and will soon become a mindless monster. He asks Well to perform one final task, to use holy magic to purge him and set his soul free. Well is heartbroken, saying he cannot bring himself to erase his master. Alfred encourages him, telling him to remember everything he has learned. He tells Well that he will become a much greater magician than he ever was. Finally finding his courage, Well thanks Alfred for everything and prepares the spell. As the warm, holy light envelopes him, Alfred smiles and tells Well that the magic feels wonderful. His final advice is for Well to always do his best and to do it smartly. With those words, Alfred disappears into the light, leaving Well alone in the forest. The next morning, Well gathers his things and finally leaves his home to start his own journey. After leaving the forest and the memory of his master behind, Well finds himself in a completely new environment at the Adventurers Academy. The transition from years of self-imposed isolation to a bustling classroom is overwhelming for him. As the students stand to introduce themselves, the air is filled with the confident voices of young warriors. Louise, a spirited girl and the third daughter of a famous martial arts family, proudly declares her mastery of the magic fist style. Soon after, Suzanne introduces herself as a skilled spearwoman from a prestigious lineage of instructors. Well watches them with a mix of admiration and deep-seated anxiety. He reflects on the 7 years he spent at home in near total solitude, purposefully keeping his distance from his family to avoid any potential drama regarding who would inherit the estate. This isolation, while safe, has left his social skills in a state of ruin. He tells himself to stay calm, realizing that this academy is where his real life begins, and where he must finally learn how to make friends. When it is finally his turn, he stands and introduces himself as the 8th son of his house, asking his classmates to call him by his nickname. However, the room remains silent, and the lack of a warm reaction makes him worry that he was being too informal. The teacher then hands out party registration forms, explaining that they must choose their teammates by next month. Wells stares at the paper in despair, feeling the familiar dread of someone who has no idea how to join a group. During lunch, the social divide becomes even more apparent. Wells sits entirely alone at a table, feeling like an outcast. Nearby, Louise and Suzanne discuss him in hushed tones. They have heard rumors that he is a magic user whose power is already equal to that of a top-class adventurer. A young man named Erwin, the 5th son of a poor knightdom, joins their table with a bold theory. He tells the girls that Well is likely sitting alone because he is appraising them, trying to see if anyone in the class is worthy of being in a party with such a powerful mage. Erwin proposes that if the 3 of them, the best swordsman, spearwoman, and martial artist, combine their talents, they might finally earn Wells' respect. While the trio plans their approach, a group of 3 rowdy boys carrying axes interrupts them. They laugh and boast about how Well will surely choose them instead. The teacher later advises the students that if they need to work part-time to earn money, they should hunt in the forest in groups for safety. Well realizes this applies to him, but since he still has no party, he heads out alone. Meanwhile, Erwin and the girls have convinced themselves that Well has set a silent challenge for the class. They believe that if they can bring back more prey as a group than Well does alone, they will prove their worth to him. When the students return from their hunt to sell their spoils, the gap between them and Well becomes undeniable. Louise, Suzanne, and Erwin are proud of their modest catch, but their jaws drop when Well reaches into a magic bag and pulls out 10 large animals. The leader of the axe trio watches in disgust and declares that he is giving up. He tells his friends that Well lives in a completely different world and that it is a waste of time to try and reach his level. Well, oblivious to the fact that he has just intimidated everyone, tries to offer to buy them all dinner with the money he earned, but when he turns around, the room is already empty. Later that evening, Erwin, Louise, and Suzanne share their frustrations. They talk about the pain of being younger siblings who can never inherit their family's legacy. Louise and Suzanne reveal that they were born with slightly more magic than their brothers, which led their families to avoid and fear them. They decided to become adventurers to find a place where their strength is actually wanted. Determined not to be discouraged by Wells' talent, they decide to go even deeper into the forest the next day to find bigger game. The next morning, the trio enters a dangerous part of the woods despite the teacher's warnings. They are quickly surrounded by a pack of extra-large wolves. Just as the situation becomes life-threatening, Well, who was using his magic to detect living things from a distance, arrives to save them. He easily dispatches the monsters and checks to see if they are hurt. Back at the dorms, the trio apologizes for the trouble they caused. Erwin admits they were trying to impress him, but realized they are simply not on his level. He tells Well that he is giving up on the idea of a party, which leaves Well feeling panicked and confused because he truly wanted to join them. A sudden interruption changes the mood when the teacher announces that the entire scholarship class has been invited to a garden party by the Duke of Bleichruder. While the other students worry that they are only being invited as extras so the Duke can get to Well, Louise and Erwin decide to use the opportunity to buy formal clothes and try to make a good impression. At the party, the Duke ignores the other students and goes straight to Well. He introduces himself as Freitag and acknowledges Well's family as his vassals. He expresses a desire to speak with Well in private, but Well, feeling a surge of loyalty to the people who have actually spoken to him, insists on bringing Erwin, Louise, and Suzanne along, claiming they are his official party members. In a private room, they meet the court magician Brantag. Brantag reveals that he was the mentor of Alfred, the man who became the Whispering Dead in the forest. He explains that through tracking magic, he noticed Alfred's presence disappear 7 years ago and suspected that someone had finally inherited his power. Seeing Well with Alfred's magic bag and incredible mana confirms his theory. Well honestly recounts his master's final moments, explaining that he purged Alfred to allow him to pass on peacefully. Brantag is moved, thanking Well for doing something so difficult for a child. Well then takes the opportunity to return the massive amount of supplies that had been stored in the magic bag from the failed expedition years ago. Once they leave the meeting, the trio admits that they were wrong about Well and confess that they originally wanted to use his power to make their own lives easier. Well surprises them by saying the feeling is mutual. He brought them along because he was too nervous to meet a high-ranking noble by himself. He tells them that his master once told him to enjoy the wide world, and he thinks he can only do that if he has friends who are fun to be around, even when times are tough. The tension breaks as Louise jokingly punches Well for being the cause of all their stress. The Duke returns one last time to deliver a final surprise. He informs Well that the reward for returning the expedition supplies is 20% of their value, which amounts to a staggering 1,000 gold coins. Well realizes this is a fortune beyond his wildest dreams. Furthermore, he is told that he will inherit Alfred's massive estate. When Well finally steps into his new giant house, he finds it far too large for one person. He looks at his party registration form, which now has all 4 of their names on it, and wonders if his new friends will be willing to share this huge new life with him. A while later, the 4 friends sit together in a high-tech magic airship, soaring through the clouds toward the capital city. Suzanne asks Well if he is certain they should be attending his brother Eric's wedding, but Well reassures her, explaining that Eric encouraged him to bring friends along. He feels a sense of relief that the academy is currently on summer break, allowing them this freedom. Louise is practically vibrating with excitement, showing off a flashy dress she picked out specifically for the occasion. She explains that she hopes to catch the eye of a high-ranking noble who might employ her as a retainer. When Suzanne asks if many nobles will be present, Well notes that since Eric is marrying into the Bran knightdom, there will surely be some influential figures in attendance. While the girls chat about fashion and status, Erwin's face is pale with terror. He admits that he simply does not trust a ship that flies through the sky. Brantag, who is acting as their guide while he travels to the capital for his own business, tells the young man not to worry, as a magic airship is designed to stay aloft. When Suzanne asks why Brantag is with them, Well explains that the mage is heading to the capital to report on his domain and is helping them find their way. Well spends much of the flight engrossed in a guidebook for the capital, confessing that there is something special he has always wanted to find there. Brantag, meanwhile, teases Erwin by adding that while the ship is safe, it would certainly fall if it were attacked by a massive dragon. As if summoned by Brantag's words, a massive ancient dragon suddenly appears, throwing the passengers into a state of total panic. People scream in disbelief, demanding to know why the flight path did not avoid monster territory. A frantic shipworker explains that this is an undead version of a dragon, meaning it does not follow the typical rules of monster behavior. As the passengers grow more desperate, the worker assures them that the legendary Brantag is on board and will handle the threat. However, inside the cockpit, Brantag admits to the pilot that he cannot defeat an undead creature because he lacks holy magic. He tells the pilot not to worry, pointing out that there is another mage on board who can handle it. Well is horrified when the task falls to him, stammering that he isn't ready, but Brantag shuts down his doubts by mentioning that Well's master would have handled this with a smile. Well steels his resolve and prepares for battle. Brantag gives Well quick instructions before sending him out onto the exterior of the ship. As the dragon lunges and spits a deadly breath toward him, a shimmering magic barrier appears, protecting Well. Brantag's voice echoes, reminding Well that he promised to protect him. Feeling the support of his master's master, Well focuses his energy. He calls for more power, summoning a brilliant, blinding holy light that he launches at the dragon. The creature struggles for a moment as the light purges its rotten essence, and it slowly begins to crumble into pieces. Brantag shouts for Well to use his magic bag to collect the valuable bones before they fall to the earth, and Well quickly scrambles to gather the remains of the ancient beast. Safe and sound, the group celebrates their survival with drinks. Well admits he is just glad they will make it to the capital because he still wants to go shopping, but a man named Aruterio, a former adventurer partner of Brantag and now a wealthy merchant, warns him that shopping might be harder than he thinks. Once they touch down in the capital, Brantag quickly makes an excuse to leave, dumping all the remaining responsibilities on Well. Aruterio chuckles, noting that Brantag is escaping the impending chaos. Suddenly, an army of knights surrounds them. The leader praises Well for slaying the dragon and informs him that the king is waiting to see him at the castle. Well is stunned as he looks at the massive palace, while his friends decide to head to his brother's house without him, leaving him to face the royalty alone. Inside the throne room, Well and Aruterio are commanded to raise their heads. The king expresses his deep gratitude for Well's bravery in defense of the airship. To honor his achievement, the king grants Well the 6th rank of baronet and bestows upon him the prestigious Twin Dragon Medal. Following Aruterio's earlier advice, Well pledges his sword to the king, the kingdom, and the people, though he secretly wonders if he truly just became a noble. Back at Eric's home, Brantag explains to Well's brother and friends that Well has effectively been promoted past his own father. This means Well's name will be removed from the original Baumeister family line to head a new, independent branch. The girls worry that Well might quit being an adventurer, but Brantag reassures them that as a noble of the robe without land, Well is free to keep adventuring if he chooses. Still, Brantag notes that Well is about to learn just how restrictive noble society can be. Inside the palace, a heated argument breaks out between Lord Marshal Edgar and Lord Commissioner Ruckner over the value of the dragon bones and magic stones Well brought back. Edgar demands a high reward for the young hero, while Ruckner tries to save the kingdom's budget, arguing that Well should be understanding of the national finances. A third man, the elderly Cardinal Hohenheim, steps in to mediate. He suggests a compromise of 150,000 gold coins, warning that the royal family should not embarrass itself in front of the capital's new hero. Aruterio explains to Well that the marshal wants to use him for the military, the commissioner wants to save money, and the cardinal wants to bring him under the church's influence. As Well leaves the palace, he is immediately harassed by a man demonstrating a spinning spear technique, hoping to be hired as a retainer. Aruterio explains that Well is now the most eligible bachelor and noble in the city, having earned a medal that hasn't been seen in 2 centuries. He warns Well that he will be swamped by people wanting jobs or wanting him to marry their daughters, making it nearly impossible to walk the streets. Well is frustrated to realize that his fame has effectively canceled his shopping plans. At the wedding, Well reunites with his other brothers, but they seem miserable. They explain that their family never sent a wedding gift, which makes them look like rude, low-class nobles in the eyes of everyone attending. Their brother Kurt even sent a letter asking the other brothers to pay for the gift themselves. Suzanne points out that this lack of a gift shames their lord, the Duke of Bleichroeder, since a lord is supposed to assist a vassal in these matters. Well realizes the family likely didn't ask for a loan because they could never pay it back. To save his brother's dignity, Well pays for the extravagant gift himself, though he finds the complexities of being a noble to be a massive pain. Later, Aruterio brings Well a special ingredient he managed to track down from the north: malted rice. Well is thrilled as he has been trying to recreate a food from his past life called miso, but it always rotted before it could ferment. He drags his friends to his new house and uses his magic to speed up the fermentation process. While he works, he reflects on a conversation he once had with an artisan about the difference between rot and fermentation. Both are the same process, but fermentation is what is useful to people, while rot is what harms them. Well decides that he wants to be like fermentation, a noble who, despite the trouble his status brings, lives intelligently and remains useful to the world around him. He shares his successful miso with his newly married brother and his in-laws, finding a small moment of peace. However, elsewhere in the capital, Cardinal Hohenheim summons his granddaughter, Elise. He tells the young girl that he has already decided who her husband will be, clearly setting his sights on the young and powerful Baronet Baumeister. Shortly after that, Hohenheim extends a formal invitation to Well to visit his residence for a private ceremony. The atmosphere inside the cardinal's home is solemn and heavy, with the weight of tradition as the true baptism concludes. Hohenheim invites Well to take a seat, promising that tea will be ready shortly. Well, feeling the weight of his new status, expresses his deep gratitude to the cardinal. He explains that he knows such a baptism is a rare honor reserved only for a chosen few, and offers a small gift as a token of his appreciation. Hohenheim accepts the offering and offers a blessing of protection in return. Their quiet meeting is interrupted by a soft knock on the door. At the cardinal's command, a young girl enters the room. Hohenheim introduces her as his granddaughter, Elise. Well introduces himself in turn, but he immediately notices something unusual about the girl. He senses a strong presence of magic within her. Hohenheim confirms his suspicion, explaining that Elise possesses the rare gift of holy healing magic. Well is genuinely impressed, noting that his own holy magic is limited to purification. He asks if she spends her time healing the wounded at the church, and the cardinal explains that she does, because of her selfless work and the charity she performs alongside other nuns in training. The people have come to call her Saint Hohenheim. Well assumes that such a dedicated girl is destined for the clergy, but Hohenheim surprises him by stating that he would prefer for her to marry and live a normal life. Well remarks on her beauty and suggests that there must be many suitors competing for her hand. The cardinal admits that many families have indeed asked for her, prompting Well to jokingly suggest that he should join the list of candidates himself. To Well's shock, Hohenheim takes the suggestion entirely seriously. He asks if Well truly wishes to take his granddaughter as a wife. Since they are both still underage, Well suggests a simple engagement for now. Hohenheim agrees, proposing that they have a proper wedding in 3 years once they come of age. Well realizes with a start that his bachelor life is effectively over, and he wonders if he has just walked into a trap. Only a minute after meeting Elise, he finds himself officially engaged. After Well departs, Hohenheim discusses the day's events with his steward. The cardinal wonders if he was perhaps a bit too forceful in securing the engagement, but the steward assures him that it was a fitting move. The steward expresses concern about how Duke Bleichroeder, the lord of the Baumeister family, will react to the news. Hohenheim reveals that he has already secured a pledge from the king himself, knowing that even a duke cannot object to a match backed by royalty. They look over the offering Well left behind, marveling at the staggering amount of gold. The cardinal notes that the boy understands the power of the church and is capable of much more than just swinging a sword or casting spells. The steward admits that while he originally thought Elise should marry a high-ranking baron, he now sees the wisdom in choosing Well. Back at his temporary residence, Well's companions react to the news with a mixture of shock and excitement. Erwin cannot believe Well went for a baptism and came back with a fiancée, especially one as famous as the saint. Suzanne and Louise are impressed by Elise's perfect reputation and lineage. Well, however, is worried. He questions whether a single minute is enough time to choose a partner for life. He argues that people should spend time getting to know one another and cultivating love, but his older brother and sister-in-law quickly shut that idea down. They explain that in the world of the nobility, romance is non-existent. Most couples do not even meet until their wedding day. In an attempt to see the capital without being hounded by people wanting to be his servants, Well puts on a ridiculous clown disguise. Erwin encourages him to enjoy the sights and perhaps buy a gift for his new fiancée, joking that Elise must be thrilled to marry the Dragon Slayer. Well remains skeptical, wondering what she truly thinks of him when her grandfather isn't watching. Despite the heavy makeup and costume, a man in the street recognizes Well by his teeth. The man shouts Well's name, drawing a massive crowd of people begging to be his retainers. Overwhelmed, Well teleports back home. His brother points out how sad it is that Well can't even walk the streets during his summer break. He suggests that hiring a formal retainer would solve the problem, as that person could handle the crowds. Erwin jokingly offers himself for the position, and Well accepts on the spot. Erwin is stunned, struggling to process that he has officially become a knight's retainer. Seeking some honest answers, Well teleports back to Hohenheim's house and finds Elise. He whisks her away to the roof so they can speak privately. He asks her directly how she feels about the engagement that was forced upon them that morning. Elise tells him calmly that she thinks it is a good arrangement and that she understands why her grandfather chose him. She explains that everyone in the capital knows of his heroics and that she is happy to become the wife of such a man. Well feels a sense of relief knowing she isn't miserable about the match. That evening, Suzanne and Louise learn about Erwin's new job. They are initially jealous and ask Erwin to convince Well to hire them as well. Erwin agrees, feeling proud that he will finally have subordinates. This irritates Louise, who threatens to beat him if he tries to act superior. Observing how happy Well's brother and sister-in-law are, the girls come up with a new plan. They decide that since they are only the daughters of retainers, they likely cannot be official wives, so they will aim to become Well's concubines. They believe this position will give them the power to boss Erwin around. Louise attempts to seduce Well with a silly dance when he gets home, but he completely ignores her and goes to dinner. Refusing to give up, Louise spends the night cutting up her expensive new dress to make a more revealing outfit for her next attempt. She encourages Suzanne to join her, but Suzanne is horrified by how much skin the new clothes show. Meanwhile, the cardinal's steward arrives to deliver an invitation for Well to have dinner with Elise the following night. The dinner date is a stiff and awkward affair. Under the watchful eye of the steward, a chef presents a series of elaborate dishes inspired by their respective titles. Well tries to strike up a conversation, but the interactions are painful. Every time he asks if a dish is good or identifies the fish, Elise simply offers a short, polite confirmation. When the meal ends, Well tries to leave, but the steward insists that a gentleman should buy a gift for his lady to commemorate their first date. They visit a high-end jewelry shop, where the merchant displays a selection of incredibly expensive rings. Well is shocked to see prices ranging from 10 to 50 gold coins, which translates to millions of yen. Elise quietly tells him that he doesn't need to spend so much, but Well insists, noting that he still has his reward from the dragon hunt. He finds a ring that seems to catch Elise's eye. The merchant warns him that it is quite plain for a saint, but Well buys it anyway. He is nearly floored when the merchant reveals the price is 300 gold coins because of a rare magic stone embedded in it. On the carriage ride home, Elise asks if he chose the ring because he sensed the magic stone. She explains that the ring can store magic, which would allow her to be more useful to him in battle. Well admits that he had no idea about the stone. He simply thought the ring would look beautiful on her. Elise is visibly moved by his honesty. Well opens up to her, admitting that he feels immense pressure being called a hero when he doesn't feel brave at all. He acknowledges that she must have faced the same struggle being labeled a saint since she was a child. Elise denies that it was easy, and they share a quiet moment of connection. Well asks to see the ring's power, and as he pours his magic into it, the stone projects a beautiful image of a starry night inside the carriage. Back at the estate, the cardinal asks his steward for his impressions of the boy. The steward admits that Well is difficult to read. He notes that while most men treat Elise with the distance and reverence of a saint, Well treated her like a normal young girl. He confesses that he truly has no idea what the young baronet is thinking. Back at the house, Erwin checks in with Louise and Suzanne, wondering what happened to their grand plan of becoming Well's concubines. Louise remains confident, explaining that since they are already part of his inner circle and adventuring party, there is no reason to hurry. Suzanne adds that their summer break is nearly over anyway. They decide to put their seduction tactics on hold until they return to the city of Breisberg, though Erwin points out that Well will now always have Elise waiting for him in the capital. Their conversation is interrupted when Elise herself enters the room, seeking an audience with her fiancé. Well's brother explains that the young boy has been summoned to the royal castle. Elise takes this opportunity to sit with his friends, her voice soft as she asks them what kind of man Baronet Baumeister truly is beneath his legendary reputation. In the grand throne room, King Helmut gives Well a daunting new task. He must slay an ancient dragon. Well accepts the mission with a humble bow. A soldier stands before a map of the Palkenya Prairie, explaining that the development of this fertile land is the key to solving the capital's food shortages. However, the territory belongs to a massive ancient dragon named Greigerland. Because only powerful mages can survive the dragon's lethal breath, the king has chosen his champions carefully. Brantag is surprised to hear they will be heading out so soon, but the king reveals there is a third member joining the party. A massive, muscular man bursts into the room with enough energy to shake the walls. This is Armstrong, the palace magician. Despite his refined title, Armstrong looks more like a seasoned warrior than a scholar of the arcane. He greets Brantag warmly and expresses his excitement at meeting the young hero who defeated the Bone Dragon. The three of them soon take to the skies, flying toward a military garrison on the border of the prairie. Armstrong explains that they must finalize their strategy and prepare their supplies before the hunt begins. While the mages plan their attack, a messenger arrives at Well's home with news for his companions. The king has ordered a massive extermination of the monsters living in the prairie, fearing that once the dragon is gone, the lesser creatures will swarm the neighboring towns. Because Well is a noble of the robe without a personal territory or a standing army, the palace creates a temporary force for him to lead. Suzanne realizes this is a political move. By giving the command to a landless noble, the palace can keep the reclaimed prairie for itself, rather than rewarding a landed lord with more territory. A crowd of ambitious young men and masterless retainers gathers at the gates, all eager to join Well's army and climb the social ladder. Erwin realizes with a shock that since Well is at the front lines with the other mages, he, as Well's only retainer, must take command of this ragtag group. He panics at the thought of leading an army, but his friends encourage him. They remind him that he is mostly a figurehead meant to provide a face for the campaign. The army sets out and establishes a camp as night falls. Suzanne and Erwin share their anxieties about their debut battle, while Louise tries to stay positive by comparing the monsters to the Bone Dragon. Elise arrives at their tent, explaining that she has been ordered to join the campaign as a healer. She asks for Well, but the girls tell her he is already near the dragon's den, waiting for the first light of dawn to begin the assault. When morning arrives, Armstrong starts the battle with a booming shout that awakens the ancient beast. He summons his specialized magic, surrounding himself with magic mobile armor. Well watches in awe as Armstrong manifests physical objects out of raw mana, creating a defense far stronger than any standard barrier. Brantag explains that Armstrong will use his immense physical strength and magic to pin the dragon down, but it consumes mana quickly. Well's job is to wait for the perfect moment to deliver the finishing blow. Despite his fear and his desire to return home, Well follows the plan. With a coordinated effort, the three mages bring the great dragon down. While Well begins the task of harvesting the dragon's valuable parts, the rest of the army faces the swarm of lesser monsters. Brantag warns Well that numbers are far more dangerous than a single dragon, reminding him of how his own master died. In the medical tents, the scene is chaotic. Wounded soldiers are carried in by the dozens, and Elise works without rest. Her holy magic brings comfort and healing to the frontline fighters, earning her the title of saint from the grateful men. Even when her own magic power is completely spent, she remembers the ring Well gave her. She draws upon the mana stored within the gemstone to keep saving lives. A soldier tells Elise that Well is a born hero who has been holding the front line together through sheer courage. This makes Elise smile, but she remembers Well's private confession about not being brave. She realizes he is pretending to be a hero for the sake of the people, which inspires her to continue pretending to be their tireless saint. Finally, word reaches the camp that the monsters are defeated. However, the celebration is cut short when Well is carried into the camp with an injury. Elise rushes to his side, her heart pounding with worry, but the exhaustion finally takes its toll, and she faints as she sees him. When she wakes up, she finds herself resting under a tree with Well. He is safe and tells her that the soldiers only managed to win because they knew the saint was there to protect them. He thanks her for her hard work, but Elise catches his hand before he can leave to get her water. She tells him she knows he isn't a true hero in the way everyone thinks, showing that she finally understands the human boy behind the legend. Their quiet moment is interrupted by Armstrong, who rushes over to check on his niece. Well is stunned to learn that the boisterous palace magician is Elise's uncle. With the campaign over, Well is promoted to the rank of Baron. His group moves into a new, larger mansion in the capital, as Duke Bleichroeder insists they continue their training there. As they unpack, Elise helps Well with the chores, asking where the miso should be stored. Louise and Suzanne watch them, feeling a sense of crisis. They realize that Well and Elise are starting a real life together, and their window of opportunity is closing. Elise asks Well if he is already engaged to Louise and Suzanne, noting that it is common for people living together to be betrothed. Well quickly denies it. He then asks Elise how she feels about the idea of him having concubines. Elise gives a calm, professional answer, stating that it is perfectly normal for a noble of his standing. Seeing their chance, Louise and Suzanne immediately declare that they want to marry him as well. Well, caught off guard by the sudden proposal, simply agrees. Louise cheers in triumph, celebrating the successful conclusion of their long-running plan. Elise watches them with a gentle smile, noting how happy the girls seem to be. Not long after the reshuffling of his personal life, Well finds himself attending yet another family wedding. This time, his brother Helmut is marrying into a knightly house. As the festivities unfold, Well chats with his brothers, who observe that the only reason a knightly family would want to marry them is to secure a connection to the famous dragon slayer. Well tries to brush off the idea, insisting there must be more to it, but his brothers tell him to face reality. They warn him that the eyes of the entire kingdom are on him and that he needs to prepare for the upcoming martial arts tournament. Well is caught off guard, as he has not heard much about the event. His brothers explain that it is a grand competition hosted by the kingdom every 3 years, and tradition dictates that all nobles participate at least once. When Well suggests entering the mage division to play to his strengths, his brothers deliver a crushing blow. There is no magic division. The tournament only consists of swordsmanship, spearmanship, archery, and hand-to-hand combat. Furthermore, since a noble is expected to show mastery with a blade, it is decided that Well must enter the swordsmanship division. He considers using magic to enhance his physical strength, but his brothers inform him that the use of any magic is strictly forbidden. It is a contest of pure, raw skill. Well feels a wave of dread, wishing there were a division for something he actually enjoys, like cooking. While Well worries about the rules, his friends are busy training. Louise and Suzanne push themselves hard, using their magic to boost their physical abilities. Erwin, however, is struggling. After 6 months of trying to keep up with his magically enhanced companions, he reaches his breaking point. He tells the girls that he is at his limit and cannot compete with their unnatural strength. Suzanne admits her own magic isn't as high as Louise's, but Erwin feels truly isolated as the only one without a drop of magical talent. He watches as Well flies over them on his way to see Cardinal Hohenheim, feeling even more like an outsider. Later, Brantag visits the group and reminds the girls that they must put up a fight worthy of their status as daughters of military retainers. He warns them that losing in the first round would bring shame to Well. When Erwin acts indifferent, claiming he has nothing to lose, Brantag drops a cold dose of reality. He warns Erwin that in 2 years, they will all be adults and official adventurers. He suggests that if Erwin cannot pull his weight, he might be cut from the party. Erwin is deeply hurt, believing their bond is deeper than mere utility, but Brantag tells him not to be naive. He explains that comrades must be able to trust each other with their lives, and feelings alone are not enough to survive the adventuring life. He tells Erwin to make sure he isn't seen as a hindrance. During dinner that night, Suzanne asks Well about the tournament. He shares some news he gathered from the Cardinal, revealing that Warren, the commander of the Royal Knights and winner of the last 2 tournaments, was supposed to withdraw to focus on teaching. Well then changes the subject to their adventuring party, explaining that he wants to officially add Elise to their group. Everyone agrees that her healing magic will be a massive benefit. Well is relieved, hoping this means he can focus on simply not embarrassing himself at the tournament. Erwin, however, takes the opposite approach. Driven by the fear of being left behind, he loudly vows that he will win the entire competition. The nature of their training shifts dramatically once magic is taken out of the equation. In drills that rely solely on physical technique and stamina, the roles are completely reversed. Erwin excels in every exercise, moving with a speed and precision the others cannot match. Meanwhile, Louise and Suzanne struggle without their magical crutches, and Well finds himself in dead last, panting and exhausted. Despite his physical success, Erwin's mental state begins to crumble when he hears that Warren is officially entering the tournament. During dinner, Well explains that while Warren initially planned to sit the event out to mentor others, the king has ordered him to participate anyway to act as a hurdle for the next generation. This news makes the path to victory seem impossible. Erwin skips his nightly training, feeling defeated. When Louise and Suzanne check on him, he explains that Warren is a genius who rose through the ranks despite coming from a lower noble house. Erwin feels that since he has no magic, failing to produce a result in this tournament would prove he is a hindrance. The girls try to reassure him that they don't see him that way, but Erwin snaps back, telling them that people with magic could never understand his insecurity. The next day, Erwin finds Well asleep on a sofa and tries to ask him directly if he would ever kick him out of the party for losing. Well wakes up and apologizes, explaining that he fell asleep while waiting for Elise. He reveals that Elise has been feeling incredibly anxious about joining the party. She is worried that her lack of physical training will eventually make her a burden to the group, so she has been secretly training in the early hours of the morning. Well observes that even someone as seemingly perfect as the Saint has her own deep insecurities. Hearing this softens Erwin's heart. He realizes everyone is fighting their own private battles, and he tells Well to watch him win the tournament before heading off to apologize to the girls. When the day of the tournament finally arrives, Brantag and Armstrong secure prime seats in the arena. They note that while only the finals are held in the main stadium, the preliminaries will be a grueling test. Elise arrives with handmade lunchboxes for everyone, providing a small moment of comfort before they head to the different arenas. Armstrong jokingly tells them all that they are welcome to come back if they lose. Well's first match is a disaster. To his horror, he is matched against Warren right away. He tries to tell himself that he just needs to put up a decent fight, but Warren knocks him out in the very first exchange. Well returns to his mentors so quickly that Armstrong jokes it was like he just went out for a quick shopping trip. The others fare much better. Louise, Suzanne, and Erwin all win their opening matches. However, Louise is the first to return after losing in the semifinals of the preliminaries. Brantag consoles her, noting that her specific fighting style is at a major disadvantage without magic. Suzanne reaches her final preliminary match, but comes face to face with Roderick, the man who has been obsessively asking to be Well's retainer. Roderick is surprisingly powerful and skilled, using his spinning spear technique to defeat Suzanne. She returns to the group and explains that Roderick is not just a street performer, he is a highly educated man from a merchant family who knows law and accounting. She notices Well is asleep again, and Elise explains that he didn't get any rest the night before. As Erwin prepares for his final match before the championship round, he runs into Warren, who tells him he looks forward to their duel. However, Erwin has sustained a painful injury. A doctor advises him to forfeit to avoid permanent damage, but Erwin is determined to keep his promise. Louise and Suzanne find him and explain that Brantag regrets being so harsh with his earlier warnings. They urge Erwin to look at the lunchbox Elise brought, revealing that it was actually Well who stayed up all night making them. When Erwin opens it, he finds the food carefully arranged to look like the faces of all 5 party members, accompanied by a simple message, "Let's do our best." The girls explain that Well saw how stressed they all were and wanted to do something to lift their spirits. Erwin realizes that Well doesn't value him for his strength alone, but as a true friend. Reinvigorated by the gesture, Erwin refuses to run away. He tells the girls that he won't let Well be a laughingstock by having a party member who gives up. While we don't see the final results of the tournament, the aftermath brings new opportunities. Erwin and Suzanne find themselves being mentored by Warren, gaining the elite training they need to bridge the gap. Meanwhile, Louise leads Well to meet her own mentor. Armstrong greets them with a thunderous shout, promising a training regimen that will make their muscles and minds tremble with joy. Though he dreads the physical toll, Well accepts his fate, vowing to push through and become the strong adventurer his party needs.